Welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, December 20th, 2020, and in exactly 16 days, we will know who controls the United States Senate elections. So I'm actually going to be making a video updating you guys on the 2021 Georgia election every 5 days until the election. So it's the 16th day out, then down to the 11th, then down to the 6th, and then down to the day before the election. And we'll actually see what happens, and we'll talk about my final predictions once we reach that point. But today, we're going to be taking a look at where we've seen updated numbers, where we've seen Jon Ossoff and David Perdue perform pretty well. I don't know why I almost said Karen Handel. I don't know why her name popped into my brain, but Kelly Loeffler and Raphael Warnock, they are also facing off in a runoff election. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to go ahead and see what actually has changed from the last time I've updated you guys on these Senate elections and talk about the impact of it overall, because we all know that it will determine Senate control. That's the title of this video. That's what we know is going to happen after January 5th. We will know who controls the United States Senate, and that will be very critical for a Joe Biden administration if the Democrats are to win back the United States Senate through 2 runoff elections. But the numbers have been getting worse and worse. It is official now that the Republican Party, for the first time since the very beginning, November 9th up until right around here, November 15th, that was the only time when both Republican candidates led against the Democratic opposition. Now, both Republicans lead, David Perdue by 1 point, Kelly Loeffler by 0.2%, but there are still leads nonetheless. And looking at the amount of undecided support, usually in states such as Georgia, even in a number of other swing states across the country, undecideds typically break for the GOP, just because of the fact that pollsters aren't always able to gauge those voters who tell the pollster that they're undecided but will actually end up voting for the GOP. So right now, David Perdue being ahead by 1 point and Kelly Loeffler being ahead by 0.2%, you can probably expect them to do a little bit better than that. Ossoff and Warnock need trouncing poll leads right now if they are to convince everyone that they are going to absolutely win these Senate elections. I've been saying it even through the time period where Raphael Warnock was up against Kelly Loeffler by 3 points, that I still believe the GOP was and is going to win these Senate races, and the numbers are only getting worse for the Democratic Party. This comes as a response from the Trafalgar Group releasing new polls that shows David Perdue ahead and Kelly Loeffler ahead. Emerson also shows David Perdue ahead and Kelly Loeffler ahead. Same thing from Insider Advantage, and also, never heard of this pollster before, but Wick shows Perdue ahead by 3 and Loeffler ahead by 2. So one thing actually seems pretty consistent is that Loeffler underperforms or is on par with David Perdue, and that honestly is pretty surprising to me. I think that David Perdue will actually perform better. He's doing better based off the average, but they're around the same. Both are ahead by less than a percentage point. But when you're looking at the overall results from the 2020 election, you see that David Perdue received 49.7% of the vote. However, the Republican Party in the Senate election in total received 49.4% of the vote. The Democrats received 48.4%, and in the regular election, Senate election, the Democrats only received 47.9%. So when you face them up against each other, they still do worse than the Republican Party. In fact, Jon Ossoff ran behind David Perdue by roughly 1.8%. I think that is very interesting given the fact that Joe Biden won this state. We all know Joe Biden won this state with 49.5% of the vote. Jon Ossoff could only reach 47.9%. So David Perdue, more popular than Trump as well, receiving 0.4% more of the vote than Donald Trump. That is also something to note as well. The fact that David Perdue did better than Donald Trump is something to realize, because Donald Trump will not be on this ballot. So number one, there won't be as much enthusiasm on the Democratic side to vote out Donald Trump. And David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, while are Republicans that have been clinging on to Donald Trump, they're by no means as extreme. I think Kelly Loeffler has tried to argue that she is, but realistically, these voters are still going to view them as traditional Republicans, and they're going to view Donald Trump as the more extreme wing, even though both of these candidates have pretty much not really accepted the election results as is. And people are also neglecting to realize that Shane Hazel is a Libertarian Party candidate. 115,000 votes for the Libertarian Party candidate. David Perdue defeated Jon Ossoff in the first round by almost 100,000 votes. Joe Biden only won the state by 12,000. With that 115,000 Libertarian votes, which actually skew to the right, it's pretty obvious that the Republican Party does have the initial advantage. All they need is 0.3 out of the 2.3% that the Libertarian Party candidate won to win the election. The Democrats need all of the write-in votes and 2% 2.2 out of the 2.3% of the Libertarian Party vote in order to win. So that's something that's going to be very difficult. Same thing in the special election. I mean, Kelly Loeffler is one of the most extreme Republicans that could have won. That's why she only won 26% of the vote as an incumbent. She was appointed. She has never been elected to this position, but this could be her first time being elected. With these numbers, I think the Democratic Party still needs to focus a lot of money on these Senate races, because right now they are about to get trounced at this current trend, because like I had mentioned before, undecideds typically break for the GOP. On top of that, the GOP is already leading in preliminary election data, and I get it, the polls were wrong in a number of states, but Georgia was not one of them. So if they are even as closely accurate as they were in the 2020 election, then the Republicans should technically win this Senate election, but it's still not a fight that should be given up by the Democratic Party. As we all know, it will determine Senate control, and the Democratic Party would love to flip Georgia's Senate congregation from 2 Republicans to 2 Democrats, the same thing that they did in the state of Arizona. Is it possible? Absolutely. I think this is 100% in reach, but I do not think it is the most likely scenario. I think the most likely scenario is that the Republican Party wins both seats. Next likely scenario is that the Republican Party only wins 1. It's going to be very difficult, realistically, to win in a state that is traditional for the GOP, but Joe Biden did it, which is why Democrats should remain hopeful in this election. But the numbers don't exactly tell that good of a story for them. David Perdue, like I said, barely needs that Libertarian Party vote to win the election. I can guarantee it, if there's lower turnout on the Democratic side, they could easily lose this election. Turnout is the most important thing. Turnout, turnout, turnout. Bringing out voters in the Atlanta metro area. Bringing out the similar voting base that they brought out in the 2020 election. That is how Democrats will win in the state of Georgia. Republicans benefit always from lower turnout. They always benefit from lower turnout. If there is lower turnout amongst minority groups, because this is a very well-known thing, older, whiter, and richer voters vote at a higher rate, than any other demographic group in the entire country. It sounds very, peculiar. It sounds very small, a very small demographic group, but this state was decided by 12,000 votes in 2020. Every vote matters, and every demographic group actually absolutely matters. And when that's the voting base that votes in very high numbers, they traditionally vote for the GOP. I can't imagine this election would be any different, which is exactly why minority voters in Georgia really need to turn out to this election. Minority Democrats specifically need to turn out if they are to win both of these Georgia Senate seats, because it's not just one that's up. It's not as if this is a 49-50 scenario. The Republican Party could have as large of a 52-seat majority if the Democratic Party doesn't win at least one of these seats. And in the best case, the Democratic Party is tied, which means they would need to do something very good, convincing for some of these more conservative Democrats to even pass legislation. But it'll make it a lot easier for the first 2 years, because just like it was under the Obama administration, the Democratic Party will probably lose the House of Representatives in 2022. Same thing that happened in 2010. However, Joe Biden could enjoy being a popular president as vaccine distribution will be underway, as an economic recovery will be underway. It's very different than what happened under Obama, because healthcare was the first thing that really the Obama administration focused on. They did focus on the economy, but it did not entirely recover till right after the second term, leading into the final few years of the Obama administration. This election, it is going to happen almost immediately. This year, 2021, is going to happen almost immediately. And I don't think that's something that's going to directly impact the runoff elections, because they're 16 days away, but they could impact the 2022 midterm elections. And in 2018, despite it being a Democratic wave year, the Democrats won the Senate popular vote by 20 points. They won the House popular vote by 9 points. The Republican Party still gained 2 seats in the United States Senate because of partisanship. We could see that happen for the Democratic Party, but the states that they want to win are slightly more competitive than they were for the Democratic incumbents in some of these races, meaning they lost by larger margins. And when you're looking at the Senate map now, this 50-50 tie would not be something that is absolutely secure. The Democratic Party could absolutely lose seats as well in the 2022 Senate elections, alongside losing the House of Representatives. But the first 2 years, with the Democrats having the House majority, which they probably won't, if Biden even wins the second term, they probably won't hold it. They'll probably only have it for these 2 years. The Democratic Party could take advantage of this time. And if the Republicans win these 2 Senate races, it's going to completely prohibit that. The only 2 Republicans I could possibly see voting for a Joe Biden law would be Susan Collins in Maine and Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. Mitt Romney would be okay with confirming a number of Biden appointees. I don't see why he would want to completely block that, but we could see a number of Republicans trying to block Joe Biden every step of the way. And this is their first step, winning these 2 Georgia Senate races. it would be very good for the Republican Party if they won both of these Senate races or just one. That's why the stakes are so much higher for the Democratic Party. The Republican Party just needs to rely on a traditional Republican base, on a traditional Mitt Romney-esque, John McCain-esque Republican base. There's a reason why Donald Trump underperformed both Romney and McCain despite winning the election one time and coming closer than both of them in the second time. And when you're looking at the results in Georgia, it was extremely close. So technically, one could argue you could win based off the Trump base. But Trump underperformed Republicans in both Senate elections, and I think when we're looking at the runoff elections, the Republican Party absolutely needs that Trump base, but they also need to win back those voters who are suburban voters that voted for Romney, but voted for Clinton, and then voted for Biden. Those are very real voters, and I think they could absolutely return to David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, especially since the right wing is painting both of these candidates as extremists. But that wasn't exactly the playing strategy that worked against Joe Biden, so we still have a lot to see. But the overall update is that David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler have taken the lead for the first time in this entire election cycle since November 15th. We are 16 days away, and we've come pretty much full circle from the last time the Republicans were leading in terms of the date, and we're back to where we started. So the Republican Party has taken the lead in both Georgia runoff elections, which means the Democratic Party has a lot of work to do. But we still, like I mentioned, 16 days away. We have a pretty significant portion of time left in order for things to happen, things to change dramatically in all of these races. But when we're looking at the races, they've just been narrowing, and they've been moving more in favor of the Republican Party as we've been getting closer to this election cycle. So much is at stake for both political parties. The Republican Party technically could be relaxed. They shouldn't be as worried as the Democratic Party should be in these Senate elections, but neither of them are completely over, and both of them are absolutely in reach for both parties. But for the Democratic Party, they better hope they win them if they want a chance of passing anything under a Biden administration. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my post-2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.